Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to tell you something that might sound strange. The brain does not listen to you. Now that's a weird thing to say, right? It's your brain. It's supposed to be you. But here's the truth. Most of the time, you are not in control of your brain. Your brain is in control of you. Have you ever told yourself, tomorrow, I'm going to wake up early and go for a run, and then tomorrow comes, and you hit the snooze button, not once, not twice, or maybe you've told yourself, I will not check my phone during this meeting. And yet, somehow, there you are, 5 minutes in, scrolling through Instagram or checking email. You see, we live under the illusion that our brains are obedient machines that follow our commands, but they're not. They are survival machines. Their number one job is not to make you successful, it's to keep you safe. And that means avoiding risk, avoiding discomfort, avoiding change. That's why, when you try to do something new, something bold, something courageous, your brain resists. Not because it's lazy, but because it's afraid. Now here's the good news. You can lead your brain, but leadership, real leadership, begins with trust, and your brain doesn't trust you. Yet, let's think about leadership in an organization. We don't follow a leader just because they tell us what to do. We follow leaders who create safety, who show consistency, who live what they say. Your brain is no different. If every time you say, I'm going to start tomorrow, and you don't, if every time you say, this is the last time I procrastinate, and it's not, then your brain starts tuning you out. Not because it's broken, because it's smart. So how do we rebuild trust with our brain? Consistency over intensity. Small wins over big declarations. Don't say you're going to change your whole life overnight. Say you'll do one push-up, write one paragraph, wake up 5 minutes earlier, and then do it. That's how we begin to earn back our brain's trust. That's how we train it to listen. You don't need to control everything. You just need to lead. Start with why. Why do you want to wake up early? Why do you want to write that book? Why do you want to break the habit? When your why is clear and your actions are consistent, your brain will follow. Not because you forced it, because you earned it. So the next time you find yourself frustrated when your brain seems to have a mind of its own, remember, it's not disobedient, it's just scared. And like any good team, it needs a leader it can trust. Your brain is not designed to obey you, it's designed to protect you. The biggest mistake we make is assuming our brain is meant to carry out our commands like a soldier follows orders. We say, I will wake up early, or I will stop procrastinating. And then we get frustrated when our brain doesn't comply. But here's what most people don't realize. Your brain is not wired to obey, it's wired to protect. That means it will always prioritize what feels familiar, what feels safe, what feels certain. This is not weakness, this is evolution. When we were hunters and gatherers, the unknown could mean death. Taking risks, stepping out into unfamiliar terrain could result in injury or worse. So our brains developed sophisticated mechanisms to keep us alive: fear, hesitation, avoidance. Fast forward to today, and those same protective mechanisms are still at work. But now, instead of running from a lion, we're running from discomfort, from uncertainty, from growth. Every time you try to start something new, a morning routine, a new business, a habit of journaling or exercise, your brain hits the brakes. Not because it wants you to fail, but because it doesn't want you to get hurt. It can't tell the difference between emotional discomfort and physical danger. To it, discomfort is danger. And so when you say you're going to do something hard, your brain doesn't respond with enthusiasm. It responds with suspicion. It doesn't trust you yet. It's scanning for risk, for inconsistency, for anything that feels unsafe. And when it senses that danger, even if it's just the fear of embarrassment or failure, it throws up resistance. This is why we fail to follow through, not because we're weak-willed or lazy, but because we're fighting against a system designed for survival, not success. The solution isn't to shame yourself into change or try to overpower your own brain. The solution is to understand what your brain is trying to do and lead it gently, consistently, and patiently. You must work with your brain, not against it. Recognize its purpose. Respect its instinct to protect. But also know that growth requires a new kind of safety, the safety of trust. consistency, and purpose. When you approach your brain not as a servant but as a partner, everything begins to shift. Trust is not something that's given, it's something that's earned. We understand this when we talk about relationships or leadership, but we rarely apply that same principle to ourselves, to the relationship we have with our own mind. The truth is, your brain doesn't just automatically believe everything you say. It remembers, it keeps track, and when your actions don't match your promises, it begins to tune you out. Think about how many times you've said, "This is the last time I eat junk food," or "I'm going to start waking up early every day." And yet, a day or two later, you're back to the same habits. Every broken promise sends a signal to your brain. This person is inconsistent. And like any smart system, your brain starts to filter your words as noise, not because it wants to sabotage you, but because it's trying to protect you from disappointment and failure. Your brain resists change not just because change is uncomfortable, but because it has learned not to take you seriously. Leadership is about alignment. When a leader in an organization constantly says one thing and does another, the team stops listening. They nod in meetings, but privately they've checked out. Your brain works the same way. If your internal leadership is full of bold declarations but weak execution, your brain eventually disengages. Not because it's disobedient, because it's smart. So how do you rebuild trust? You start small. You make promises that you can keep. Instead of saying, "I'll run 5 miles every day," start with, "I'll put on my shoes and walk around the block." Do that consistently. Do it without fail. Over time, your brain will start to notice, hey, this person follows through. And like any good team member, it will begin to re-engage. It's not about grand gestures, it's about credibility. Every time you follow through on a small promise, you deposit trust into your mental bank account. And when that trust builds, your brain starts to listen, not out of fear or force, but because it believes you. Rebuilding this trust takes time, but it's worth it. Because when your brain starts to trust you again, it becomes an ally instead of an obstacle, and that changes everything. Leadership is the key. Even with yourself, we tend to think leadership is something we do outward in teams, in organizations, in communities. But the most important person you will ever lead is yourself. And the first step in self-leadership is acknowledging that you are not the voice inside your head, you are the one who leads it. That voice, that stream of thoughts, is like a team of talented but often anxious employees. They want direction, they want consistency, they want safety. When you yell, berate, or make demands of your own mind, you're not leading, you're dictating. And dictators rarely earn loyalty. But when you lead with clarity and compassion, when your intentions are anchored in purpose, and you demonstrate consistency, your brain begins to align with you. A good leader doesn't just give orders. They create environments, they reduce fear, they set an example. When you say to yourself, "I'm going to take care of myself today," and then you actually follow through, eat well, get sunlight, speak kindly, your brain begins to trust you. It begins to feel safe under your leadership. That's when it becomes open to challenge, to risk, to change, because it knows you won't push it off a cliff. You'll stretch it, but you won't break it. This is why the language of leadership matters. Stop giving yourself ultimatums, start casting vision. Instead of "I have to stop procrastinating," say, "I'm choosing to do this now because it matters." Instead of "I'll never fail again," say, "Every mistake teaches me how to get better." Your brain listens more closely to stories than commands. It follows belief, not barking. So if you want to stop the cycle of starting and quitting, begin by leading yourself the way you would lead others, with purpose, clarity, and trust. And like any good team, your brain will rise to the leadership it respects. Let me know if you'd like the next 3 expanded points. Consistency builds trust, not intensity. There's a powerful illusion that keeps us stuck. The belief that big, dramatic action leads to big, dramatic change. So we make grand declarations. I'm going to run 5 miles every day, or I'll write 1,000 words every night. For a day or two, we might even keep it up, but soon life gets in the way and the habit breaks. Again and again, and every time it does, your brain learns the same lesson. You're not consistent, you're intense, but not reliable. This is where the real shift happens, because trust is not built through intensity. It's built through consistency. You don't build trust with a friend by throwing them a surprise party once. You build it by showing up for coffee every week, by checking in when they're quiet, by remembering the little things. Trust is earned in the moments when no one's watching, when you stay consistent. Even when it's boring, inconvenient, or uncomfortable, your brain operates the same way. It doesn't respond to big goals, it responds to repeated action. Small, simple wins, done consistently, send a powerful signal. You can trust me. And once trust is there, everything changes. Your brain starts working with you instead of against you. The resistance softens. You no longer have to fight for motivation every time because your brain starts to expect consistency. It starts to believe in it. The irony is, the smaller the promise, the more powerful the impact if you keep it. One push-up a day, one paragraph, one glass of water, one deep breath. These acts might feel laughably small, but when done daily, they create a rhythm, and rhythm builds momentum. Momentum leads to belief. And belief is what creates lasting identity change. Your brain doesn't trust intensity. It has seen it fail too many times, but it will trust consistency, especially if it's quiet, humble, and done with integrity. So the next time you're tempted to set a big, overwhelming goal, pause. Ask yourself instead, what's the smallest possible action I can take every single day to become who I want to be? Then do that. And when your brain sees you do it not once, but repeatedly, it will stop resisting. It will start listening, because it will know, this time you mean it. Start with why, not just what. Your brain doesn't wake up in the morning excited to do hard things. It doesn't naturally want to get uncomfortable or take risks. But there's something deeper that can move it: meaning, purpose, the reason behind the effort. That's why starting with why matters so much, not just for leadership, but for change. When you tell yourself, I need to wake up at 5 a.m., your brain hears discomfort. When you say, I want to wake up at 5 a.m. because I value peace, and this is the only time I get it, your brain hears meaning. The difference isn't the action, it's the reason behind it. The truth is, we rarely follow instructions unless we believe in the outcome. Think about it. We don't follow leaders who simply tell us what to do. We follow leaders who explain why it matters. We follow those who align us with a mission bigger than the task. Your brain works the same way. If your what is to go to the gym, your brain will resist. If your why is to be present for your kids in 20 years, to feel confident in your own skin, to live longer now, your brain has context. It has purpose, and purpose unlocks energy. When you start with why, you no longer need as much willpower. Because you've created emotional alignment. That's the secret to motivation that lasts. Not hype, not pressure, but purpose. Real, grounded emotional clarity about why you're doing the thing in the first place. This is why people can endure pain for things they believe in. It's why athletes train through injury, why artists work through exhaustion, why parents sacrifice sleep. It's not because they love the discomfort. It's because they are anchored in something bigger, and when you're anchored in why, your brain becomes remarkably willing. But here's the key: your why must be honest. It can't be someone else's goal. It can't be what you think you should care about. It has to be what truly matters to you. Maybe your why is freedom, or self-respect, or the desire to lead by example. Whatever it is, get clear on it. Remind yourself of it daily. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Because when your why becomes clear, your what becomes doable. And your brain, the same brain that once resisted every change, will finally start to listen. Not because it has to, but because it wants to. So many of us live with this tension inside. We think if we could just control our minds, we could finally do the things we want to do. We fight with ourselves. We label our lack of discipline as weakness. We believe something is wrong with us when we can't just get it together. But control is not the answer, not in relationships, not in organizations, and certainly not within ourselves. What we really need is leadership. Control is based in fear, it's rigid, it demands obedience, and in most cases it breaks things. When you try to force your brain into submission through shame, through guilt, through sheer pressure, you might win for a moment. You might get the task done, but what you lose is far greater. You lose trust, you lose alignment, you lose peace. Leadership is the opposite. Leadership is about relationship. It's about influence, not force. The best leaders don't bark commands, they inspire belief. They create cultures of trust, where people feel safe enough to take risks and grow. When you lead your brain with compassion, clarity, and consistency, it begins to work with you, not against you. The resistance doesn't disappear overnight, but it begins to soften, because now your brain feels led, not bullied. The secret to leading your brain is curiosity, not criticism. Instead of "why am I such a procrastinator?" ask, "what fear is showing up right now?" Instead of "why can't I just do it?" ask, "what would make this feel safe, simple, or meaningful?" These questions shift you from judgment to understanding, and understanding builds trust. Remember, your brain is trying to protect you. That's its job. You don't need to override that. You just need to give it a better reason to act, one rooted in purpose, one based on trust. When your brain sees that you're not here to punish it, but to partner with it, that's when change becomes possible. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like leading yourself the way a good coach would lead a team: encouraging, strategic, honest, focused. It looks like being patient with setbacks while still holding the vision. It looks like taking small, repeated steps toward alignment and celebrating those steps. The truth is, we don't need more discipline. We need more trust. We don't need to force ourselves into action. We need to lead ourselves with clarity, because when your mind feels led, not judged, not threatened, it begins to follow. The real win isn't total control. It's cooperation, alignment, momentum, and that happens through leadership, quiet, consistent, purpose-driven leadership. So no, your brain doesn't automatically listen to you, but it will follow a leader it trusts.